Alright then, hello Fastest Furs committee, audience. This is Metal Gear Survive, New Game Plus, Bad Ending. I am SpaceCow2455, and this is a commentary over my most recent PB. So like most Metal Gear games, this game starts with a lot of cutscenes, considerably fewer than... Right, I forgot it starts with that preloaded. So, this game is an open world survival zombie crafting game, and we start by making our character, but we make our character in installments over a series of cutscenes that we skip through. Basically, this game happens after the Mother Base attack in Metal Gear Solid 5, and our character, the captain, is sucked into a wormhole along with a bunch of enemies and other Mother Base friendlies. And unlike most of the people, we were only partially sucked through the wormhole and it cut off our arm. And then we were brought back to a facility where it was discovered that our arm is attached to us again. So we have been informed by a secret paramilitary organization called the Charon Corps that we have been exposed to this alternate world through the wormhole, and it has infected us with some kind of nanovirus thing that will eventually turn us into a zombie. They also inform us that all of their operatives were killed mysteriously. They don't know how they all died, and they want us to go through because these wormholes keep opening up and these cyber zombies keep entering into our dimension, and they don't know how much longer they can keep fighting them off, so they established the Charon Corps to go fight off all these cyber zombies and stuff. So now we're in here. Our health and stamina is very low at the start because we just came out of a state of suspended animation. So we are going to be doing a lot of walking here. This game, as I said before, is a survival crafting game, so eating and drinking is a necessary part of playing the video game. So because I believe our hunger and thirst is at about 30% or something, we just don't have a lot of stamina, we don't have much health, so we're going to be doing a lot of walking because sprinting uses up our stamina. So here we encounter an agent from the Charon Corps, I think named Reeve, who doesn't trust us at first, but now trusts us. We build the one and only weapon we'll be crafting in this run, a pipe spear, which is crafted as part of the tutorial because for some reason we lost the gun that we picked up. So we used it to break down that barricade, and we go through a bunch of other tutorials. This one's supposed to tell us that we can sneak around enemies. We don't do that right here. Instead, we just run right past this zombie, open this door up, and this is supposed to be the tutorial on how to backstab enemies. We do not backstab that enemy. Instead, we punch it out of the way with the bionic punch from Metal Gear Solid 5, but without the sound effect. And I get grabbed there because I'm very, very good at this video game. Now, a tech that we'll be using here and only here in the run is for some reason when you pull out your spear, you continue moving at sprint speed even if you're not supposed to be able to. And now we have a tutorial on how to crawl under things. As Reeve says, he's planted C4 in this facility to kill all the zombies in here and hopefully stop them from following us to the Charon Corps main base. And some further explanation of the plot here that mostly just hides a lot of loading screens, which means we're going to see a lot of loading screens because we're skipping all the things that would hide them.
We got infected with some kind of nano thing that's going to turn us into a cyber zombie eventually. So they're like, hey...
And this is supposed to be loading up the big title drop.
Why don't you go into this alternate dimension because we know there's something there that's creating
Yeah.
zombies.
If there's time for donations, I guess it goes here.
Like portals into our dimension, and it's happening more and more frequently, and we don't know how much longer we're going to be able to like deal with it.
Not a lot of downtime in this run, but because this is a very story-heavy part of it, and again, these are all skipping loading triggers. This is the part with a lot of downtime.
And they all died, and we don't know how. But
also, it has to load in the whole world. So, again, a little bit more waiting. This is a cutscene that we basically can't skip, where this supercomputer that runs the main base called Virgil tells us how to use our status screen and how to use our map, and that we need food and water. So we play in Japanese because it makes a handful of unskippable dialogue areas like this just a lot more efficient to go through. This is the fastest language that this particular tutorial goes through.
Of the organization that was exploring this place, which appears to be just an Earth in another reality. Like, this map is literally just Afghanistan from Metal Gear Solid 5, apparently.
And yeah, so this area would normally have has a eternal supply of dirty water as long as we have containers for it. It also has some bottles of clean water that respawn periodically, and some goats that the game wants us to kill for food. Because this is New Game Plus, which I guess I haven't explained fully what New Game Plus is exactly, but because we have a lot of items already, I have 2,000 something bottles of clean water and 1,000 fresh goats. So right there we equip all of our New Game Plus gear effectively, using the loadout system. So now we have a bunch of gear that we would normally have by about the end of the game equipped already. And we are eating a couple different foods here. So we have grilled zebra, which gives us faster stamina recovery. We have steamed zebra, which gives us slower stamina drain. And we have Anubis soup, which Anubis is a dog in reference to Zone of the Enders. And that is sprint speed up. And anytime that we have downtime during the game, we will be eating these as soon as we hit the end of the downtime, to make sure that we have these buffs permanently throughout the game. So most of our missions in this game are going to be collecting memory boards for Virgil. The first one is very, very close by and is also supposed to be our tutorial to combat. We will not be doing any fighting in this section. However, you do see me there fire a shot out of my gun. That is to pull some zombies towards us early on, so that they are out of sight range of us by the time we reach this first memory board. If enemies have view on us, we are not allowed to interact with objectives. That's just the rule of the game, and that's one we have to play around.
We try not to tank hits.
So Virgil's explaining to us that they will show us updates on our map as they happen.
You don't want to get grabbed for multiple reasons.
And every time we bring in one of these memory boards, we get new recipes available. We do not care about the recipes. We have crafted everything that we will craft before we started doing the run. I like to think about this run as something like a drag race, like a Top Fuel drag race. A Top Fuel drag race is an event that happens for about 10 seconds, during which time you destroy every part of your car by making it go as fast as possible. And similarly, a run of Metal Gear Survive, and then you spend hours rebuilding your engine in the pits and changing your tires and all that stuff. Similarly, Metal Gear Survive, most of the time is spent outside of the game harvesting resources and crafting essential items like food, water, ammo, repairing our weapons, all that kind of stuff to make sure that when the run comes, we do not have to care about any of the survival crafting elements in the survival crafting game. So right there we obtained a damaged air tank from a member of the Charon Corps who we discovered was shot to death, which is strange because these zombies don't have guns. But that damaged air tank will become important because there's that giant wall of gray you see off in the distance. That is the dust. Inside of the dust, we cannot breathe because it is a giant cloud of nanomachines and will kill us. So we need a fresh supply of oxygen to travel through the dust, which we will build a tank for when we get back to base. This is the only time in the game that we gather two circuit boards, 2 memory boards for Virgil, because it's the only time in the game where the game will allow us to interact with both these at the same time. So right there, we finally do a little bit of fighting. We try to avoid fighting because for the most part it is irrelevant unless we're in a specific point of the game, which we will get to shortly. You'll notice also we're using an option called Return to Base. You wouldn't normally use this option in a casual play because it is it returns you to base, but it causes you to lose any crafting materials that you have picked up at the time. Which, in a casual playthrough, that's a bad thing. You want to be able to craft stuff. But in the course of this run, it is fine because we're not crafting things, and in fact it is actually a bonus because we want to avoid bringing materials back because it causes a little inventory thing to pop up before we can do anything, showing us what resources we have brought back. So for multiple reasons, we will not be gathering any kind of collectible resources in the course of this run. And now we get into the main loop of the game, which is mostly just running a very long distance somewhere. Past some goats. Hi, goats. How you doing? And now that we have our air tank constructed, we are entering into the dust. And there's a cutscene here that shows us putting on our mask and being like, hey, now we can breathe. And here's a tutorial telling us that in the dust, it's very hard to see. The dust it drains our stamina 5 times as fast as being in clean air. It also throws off our radar. It makes it basically impossible for us to use our map. So we have to rely on some basic landmarks, which most of the areas in the dust are kind of a featureless void. So our landmarks are like that rock or that tree. During one of these, I could probably try to go through and explain exactly what landmarks I'm looking for just to show you how vague they are. So this finally activated our ability to use the wormhole transporter, which is our fast travel system for the game. It is basically a teleporter. It can teleport us to any other teleporter that we discover and put back on Virgil's network, essentially. So right now we're going off to do our first defense section. Most of this run is basically horde mode. It's wave-based defense, protecting a singular objective. Usually, in our case, it's usually these wormhole transporters, but it can also be the Iris Energy Digger, which we will obtain later on. The goal is very simple. We kill all the zombies before they're able to get to the objective and destroy it. In these cases, in these particular wave-based modes, the objective always has 4 life bars. Every time it loses a life bar, it will explode and kill all of the zombies around it. And when it runs out of health, we have to restart the section. Fortunately, we have a lot of very high-level gear, so this part is a cakewalk. Right now, I'm just picking off zombies at range. I want to kill as many zombies as I can because this is the only time in the game where killing a zombie alone is what gives you experience. As a zombie dies, you see the little thing that says 400 KUB. KUB is short for Kuban Energy, which we use the system trainer to level up. And normally when you kill a zombie, you have to like harvest it like any other resource to get this. So it is not worth our time to kill zombies outside of these sections. So during these sections, especially early on in the game, we're going to try and kill as many zombies as we can just to make sure that we get the experience we need to hit certain thresholds. For the most part, we don't do a lot of leveling up in this particular run. We only care about dexterity, which makes our character move 1 game unit faster per point of, and every level up of our dexterity ability gives us 5 extra units of this in-world speed. I believe it's Fox engine units. I don't know how it translates to meters per second, which is what the game actually uses. And then the other one is endurance, which gives us more stamina, which means we can sprint longer. So everything is just about going faster. We do not put any points into any of the other stats. Like health, we don't care about health because ideally we're not getting hit. We don't care about strength because we don't use any melee weapons in this run. And yeah, so just picking off some more zombies while I have some time left. When the timer gets down to about 10 seconds, I will eat all of my foods again, and also throw out a canteen of dirty water that I get for completing some objective. I don't remember what. You just always get one in your inventory after the first couple of missions. And once this area finishes, we will be returning to base instead of using the wormhole transporter because it's faster than getting down to the wormhole transporter, and it skips a cutscene.
And right there, instead of using the wormhole transporter, we again use return.
So now we can use the wormhole transporter to get instantly to someplace. This cutscene here shows a helicopter crash. That helicopter crashing is apparently unrelated to anything else because, aside from it, gives us an indicator that there is a survivor that has washed up. They use the term washed up. They use a lot of nautical terms in this game, like castaway and washing up, to refer to things that fell through the wormhole and are now in this dimension known as Dite. So we're making our way out here. I just know that I need to make a hard left as soon as I go down that ramp. And past those couple of zombies, which are usually there in some capacity, and I will eventually run towards this blue light, which is, I think, a crate or something that I never opened because I already have opened it in another game. And then from here, just follow the ravine. But we're going to see a bit of railing, and when we hit the top of that railing, we'll fire another warning shot to pull all the zombies towards that location, including that one zombie that very intelligently set itself on fire. And this pulls all the zombies away from the survivor, who we will later learn is named Miranda. Normally they'd be swarming around her trying to kill her, and we would have to fight them all off. This prevents us from having to do that. So now I have to open this door very quickly before the zombies surround me and kill Miranda. And fortunately I did that. For some reason, even though I just unlocked that door, it is locked again and the zombies have to break it down to get to her. So now I'm going to activate this wormhole transporter that will begin effectively the Miranda rescue sequence. Once we activate this transporter, the zombies will ignore Miranda and go exclusively after the transporter. Miranda's life drains slowly over time because she does not have an air tank. So she is breathing in the dust and slowly dying. You might notice that we're not wearing a gas mask or anything, and that's just a result of this cosmetic I'm wearing. I haven't really talked about the cat on my head. That is an unlockable cosmetic in the game because this game has a lot of things that encourage you to do stuff in multiplayer. So now that most of the zombies have been taken out, we're going to retrieve Miranda and start taking her back towards the transporter so that we can transport her back. We will always use a transporter anytime we have to save a POW. And we reclaim our buffs here again.
So now we will I'll take this wormhole transporter back because.
So now we go back to our base. We're going to skip a couple cutscenes where Miranda tells us she's the nurse. And I say this helicopter was irrelevant because the helicopter was what started that fire, and Miranda was near an ambulance that clearly could not have fit inside that helicopter. So I don't know how Miranda got here.
Figure out a way to do that one with her infinite bullet guns.
Obviously, through a wormhole, it's just weird that we got a thing that didn't point to another thing. So this will, after we load in this area, we will level up for the first time. We will level up to level 5, which is our first threshold for gaining the next levels of skills. So we will hit level 2 in dexterity and level 2 in endurance. In fact, we're going to get to level 6 here because we had a little bit of extra energy.
So again, the only
and the game is giving us a tutorial on base management stuff. We don't do any of that because we don't care about maintaining this base. This base is going to exist for 2 hours approximately, and it's only going to have story characters in it. So now we have to get a memory board from the area from which we rescued Miranda. And this is one of our first times using the survival crafting elements to skip a big chunk of the game. So this is Ruins 01. This area is like a big dungeon you have to go through and navigate, but instead we're going to kind of Skyrim our way up this hill and then put a chain link fence here that we can climb up and get on top of this tank and basically enter into the last room of the dungeon backwards. Now, this room has a couple of zombies in it, so we're just going to throw a lot of C4 in there to blow up all the zombies and also knock the door down, and that lets us get the memory board without being spotted.
Something's on fire, don't care. That would be great.
Now, this memory board gives us the ability to transport heavy objects, which is necessary, I think, like twice in the run. So we're going to use that to get rid of an obstacle that was preventing us from getting the Iris Energy Digger, which is the big MacGuffin for the rest of the game, more or less. Now the Iris Energy Digger is a bit away, so I'm just going to go through my route here. I know I go from the right at a slight angle until I see a blue light there from a crate, and then I walk between this Jeep and this building. I know from there that there's going to be a tree off in the distance, kind of a spindly looking tree. I'm going to run past that until I see a secondary dirt road. I will follow that road until it leads to like a Black Sea kind of thing, and then I will make a straight line over that Black Sea. This road I have to be careful about because there's a lot of zombies here, and occasionally one of them is lying down. You want to give a wide berth to any zombie that is lying down because if you get within range of it, it will grab your foot, which is bad for a number of reasons. One of which being, the first most obvious one being that it stops you for 5 seconds and immobilizes you while you have to kick it off of you. And the second one being that if a zombie grabs your foot, it could break your ankle, which is a medical condition that you would have to apply like a splint or something to fix. And that's a further time loss. So now that we've gotten over here, we just Skyrim our way up this hill, and we run past all of these zombies. You'll notice occasionally I'm pulling my gun out. I should have mentioned that earlier. I will pull my gun out when I'm near 900 stamina, because if I get below 900 stamina, sprinting actually makes me move slower than if I was walking. And by pulling my gun out, I move into walking speed faster than by just canceling sprinting. So this is the Iris Energy Digger. We send it back to base. We move back to base camp, which brings us to base dig number 1, which is a very, very big, long auto-scroller, which is not that difficult even in the casual run, because this is like the previous defense section, except now I have access to all of the resources of my base, so I can go in I first off, I can build a bunch of defenses ahead of time. So I could have surrounded my base with chain link fences and spike traps and all other kind of stuff. But for the purpose of this, it's very easy because I have access to my limitless supplies of ammo while I'm here. I can go to any workbench and basically just replenish all of my ammunition instantly. So I stock up on all of my medical items. Hopefully I don't need them, but just in case I need them, I have them, including 3 revival pills, which let me come back even if I've died. So we're equipping a lot of things here. I just equipped a heavy arrow quiver, which lets me hold heavy arrows, which are damaging. They're like a normal arrow for my bow and arrow, but they do more damage, and I can retrieve them from zombies that I've killed, which is going to make the bow and arrow the bread and butter weapon of the rest of this run, because we tried to avoid having to restock our ammo because that is time loss. I will still be using my ammo very liberally in this section because, as stated previously, I have a more or less infinite supply of ammunition. Now, this dig is very simple, but also I don't have a way to speed it up. So what you'll notice here, if you're watching, is that I'm blowing up my own base, which seems really stupid. However, I will need to destroy all of this random debris around my base eventually in order to build an expansion to my base later on. And normally I would have to do that in the construction manager, but because I have time right now and I have 3,000 grenades or something in my inventory, it is in my best interest to just blow up all of the stuff I'm going to have to demolish later on in the run, because I have nothing better to do right now. And it will save me, I don't know, like a minute later on. So you're going to see me intermittently shooting zombies down with my assault rifle. I didn't throw enough grenades at that, and I really thought I did. And alternately, just hucking grenades at areas on the outskirts of my base.
So I'm using these grenades to destroy as much debris as I can from around the base.
So these like small debris take about 3 grenades, and then these big bridges take, I think, like 10. It depends, because grenades can get crits, which is strange, but sure. If a grenade crits, then I have to use less grenades overall. So this section also brings in bombers now as an enemy type that we have to fight. You saw a bomber when we were in Ruins 01. It was one of the zombies that was defending the doorway that we blew up with a bunch of charges of C4. A bomber is an enemy type that is immune to gunfire on everywhere except for its legs. If you notice, its head is this bulbous mass. So the bulbous mass that covers its head and torso is bulletproof. In fact, bullets bounce off of it when you hit them. I was trying to pull some zombies in by throwing a lure, but they were too close to the base and they were instead doing something else. But I did manage to catch the bomber with that.
Rifle ammo here because I have access to effectively infinite ammo right now.
And when you kill a bomber, they explode. Bombers are basically kind of siege weapons. They will run up to structures you have built and either try to batter them down with their enormous mass, or they will explode and do a lot of damage to everything, friend and foe alike. We don't encounter a whole lot of them in the run, and usually they're not a big issue. They're a bigger issue in multiplayer when they're much tougher, because multiplayer kind of scales up to your level, essentially. But again, we are very over-leveled for this part of the game, effectively, because of our gear. It's worth noting also the gear that we have selected. I have a Glock pistol because it has a high ammo capacity. I also have a 45 pistol because it has a silencer on it. The gear that I'm carrying has a bunch of ammo pouches, but because it's relatively low-leveled, high-level gear, this game has a rarity system like Fortnite, basically, where the tiers are gray, green, blue, purple, and yellow. And you can't equip purple or yellow gear unless you're at least level 30, which we will not be hitting level 30 at any point in the course of this run. But anyway, all of our gear that we have equipped is blue or green, because that's the highest equivalent of that gear that we can equip. So I have selected the assault rifle I have because it has a perk that it just has a chance to randomly blow off limbs off of enemies, which is useful for any of the special zombies, because they all have a critical weakness that if they don't have legs, they either instantly die or they can't do their special thing. And then the pistols I have an absurd amount of ammunition because I have ammo pouches in my weapons, but the ammo pouches can only carry ammunition for my sidearms. So I have something like 120 bullets for my 45, and I don't know, not quite as much for the Glock, because I mostly just use the Glock to make noise. So all the zombies have been killed at this point, so I repair my gear and restock my ammunition and get ready for the next leg of the run. And I'm just running around the base to make sure that I blew everything up that I need to blow up as the time ticks down to 0. And I yell a bunch of stuff in celebration. Mostly, I think what everybody wishes that Konami had yelled to them for making this video game. And I do a little winning 11 pose there before eating all my food to go on for the second part of the game. So this dig was supposed to make a big wormhole that would send us all back home. However, the digger just stopped, because it turns out the batteries weren't charged enough or something. So now we have to send the digger to another wormhole that is opened up that gives us access to Iris energy, an energy source that is never discussed or really brought up in any meaningful way. So that's cool. So we are going to run to an area known as Wrecked Base. It is one of the multiplayer maps that is inserted into the single-player game. So similarly, I'm going to go down here. When I reach the cliff face, I'm going to make a right, and then I'm going to just run down this black river for a while until I see a shoreline on the other side. I think I actually mess up during this attempt. I also run out of stamina. You could see my bad stamina run there, and Virgil tells me to pay attention to my stamina because it got too low. And because I was focusing more on my stamina, I kind of lost track of where I was going here. So I'm looking for like 3 trees that are next to each other, which is that one. And then there's going to be some ridges here, and then those ridges will eventually lead to a dirt road. Yeah, so there's the 3 trees, actually. They will lead to a dirt road, and that dirt road will take us to where we have to put down the Iris Digger. So you noticed also I have swapped to my heavy arrows, because again, they are high damage, single target. It's a high damage, single target ammunition that we can get back whenever we kill an enemy. So we're going to immediately start this. Normally the game would want us to clear out the initial enemies and put up some defenses and stuff, but instead we're going to instantly start this because, again, we don't care about putting up defenses. We're very over-leveled for this part. Although, I guess we're not really over-leveled. You notice that we hit level 6 in our last level up thing, and these enemies are like level 10, level 13. And anytime an enemy shows up with that red skull indicator, that is very bad for us. If an enemy is 5 levels or more above us, they just take drastically reduced damage because the game does not want us to be fighting that kind of enemy. You might also notice that I shot that black crystal thing. Each of those black crystal things holds 1,000 Kuban energy, and so it's just free experience for us to shoot that. I'm going for headshots a lot here with this weapon. Headshots are very effective in this game.
Okay.
That zombie did something
guy
very
just-
special there, in juking my abilities.
Physics was not for him.
So I go for headshots if enemies are facing me because it's the most damaging area for me to hit if an enemy is in fact facing me. If I don't have enough time to line up my shot properly, I'll just go center of mass because that's a consistent source of damage. However, if a zombie has its back to me, that is actually optimal because there is a point on the zombie's back just below the base of their neck that is a big critical damage area, which I believe is how the game explains how our backstabs work. That's like a big mass, like a tumorous mass where the nanomachines gather, and by shooting the zombies there, we do more damage than we would have done even with a headshot. So we have a brief section in between waves where I'm basically just trying to find all my arrows, because I have 100 heavy arrows, which is a lot, but I would like to have as many as I can going forward. Since I can't find any more, I'm just gonna shoot another one of these Kuban crystals and get some more energy. And start moving towards where I know the next set of enemies will spawn at the start of this wave. A technique I will use on and off during this run is throwing these Kuban crystals here, which are essentially, if you've played the other Metal Gear games, like a magazine. It just creates a very, very small thing that draws enemies in. And I will try to gather enemies together. This time was less successful, but I'll try to gather enemies together and throw a grenade to blow them all up as efficiently as possible. However, the enemies kind of lost focus on the lure, so I had to fall to my grenade arrows to pick the rest of them off. Again, picking up more energy, kind of going around. You'll notice also our oxygen is going down because this dig is like 9 minutes long. So we actually run into an issue where we could run out of oxygen, so we have to occasionally restock our supply of oxygen by transporting more oxygen in it or something using the Kuban energy we've obtained. I'm not 100% sure how it works, but basically we spend experience to get more oxygen, and also by doing that we damage our air tank a little bit. You can only recharge your oxygen 10 times before your air tank is unusable, and every time you do it, it costs twice as much. You can see the effect there of us losing our food buffs. Our stamina recharges very slowly now, and also our stamina goes down very quickly because we don't have the stamina drain. We don't have the reduced stamina drain, and we don't have the improved stamina regeneration. And a lot of this, again, is just me remembering all of the enemy spawns and picking enemies off as I kind of remember where they are, and just really just trying to maintain my supply of ammunition. Trying to manage my supply of ammunition as effectively as possible.
We use the bow because we can reclaim our arrows.
So by being proactive and taking the fight directly to the zombies, that gives me a lot more time to... Also, I missed a zombie so much that I actually killed another zombie behind them, because I'm just very good at this video game, you see.
It lets us dispatch enemies from range. It does a decent chunk of damage because of the arrow type we use.
And I believe that's a full clear on this section. No zombies will spawn in because we've got about 10 seconds left. So I spend some time to refill my air, and then I go off to get some more Kuban crystals. Kuban crystals. I call them Kuban crystals occasionally because it's effectively the spelling for Cuban, but with a K. So I just go and grab those because there's nothing better to do, so I might as well just hunt down some free experience while I'm waiting. Make sure all my weapons are reloaded in case I need to use them before running off to the next area to pick off some, to basically spawn camp some zombies that are going to come in. In this case, I'll use a lure, which is like the Kuban crystal, except bigger and it takes a resource. Basically, we're shoving a bunch of these crystals into a bottle, so it costs one empty bottle, of which I have several thousand. But unlike the Cuban crystals, we get the crystals back every time that we go back to base. Similarly to the magazines in the other Metal Gear games. And there's only one zombie here, so I just give him a punch and a backstab, and Bob's your uncle. But yeah, so we get the Kuban crystals every time we return to base, similarly to the magazines in the other Metal Gear games. The lures, because they're more powerful, are things we have to craft and things we have to manually restock, like ammunition or grenades or anything else. So I have 20 of them, which is a lot. I definitely don't use 20 lures in the course of this game, but I would rather use the infinitely respawning thing than a resource that I have to manually restock myself.
Also, this game has the wound mechanic from Metal Gear Solid 3, where anytime you take damage, you have a chance that you'll.
So this being the final wave,
wound that you have to treat.
At about 30 seconds into the end of this wave, we will hang back and just let the zombies attack the digger, because they will not be able to do enough damage to destroy the digger before the defense ends. So we'll take that time to eat food, get our buffs back and stuff. In the meantime, it's just about killing zombies and making sure that we have enough experience to get to level 15, I think, level 10, level 10, right? Level 10. So I was hoping to pull some zombies towards that bomber before I killed them, so that it would explode and kill all of the other zombies. But they caught on to my ruse because I was using the assault rifle, which is loud. Hey. There's also a lot of resources all over the ground. Again, we will not pick those up because it is detrimental for us to pick up resources. So instead, again, just killing zombies. This is a game about killing zombies.
Basically, we're using
in the words of Plywood, who is the current world record holder for this game, and I think in New Game Plus Bad Ending and Good Ending,
basically every gear that
this game was a mistake. Konami should not have made it, but it is a fun game. It is a game that is sort of a monument to Konami's arrogance, especially after letting Kojima go. But it is a survival crafting game, which, at least for me, is a fun genre of game, and it's built into the Fox engine, which is a very, very good game engine. Does a lot of neat things with regard to these tactical stealth espionage styles of game, or other kinds of, tactical games. So, this game should not have been made, but I do enjoy playing this video game. I would not be speedrunning it if I didn't like it. And we finish getting the Iris Energy, and we send the digger back, and then we need more energy, I guess. So we're waiting for another wormhole to show up so we can get more energy to create another wormhole. In the meantime, Virgil's going through all the data that they've collected from us picking up the memory boards, so we're told to go explore. So we go to the nearest digger, and we get a message from Reeve immediately on leaving the wormhole thing. And Reeve says, "Hey, another castaway showed up, really, really far away from us." So now I'm going to make my way to that car that we saw earlier and use it for the one and only time in the run. There is only one car in the entirety of Metal Gear Survive. It cannot travel that far. It is a nightmare to drive. But it's here, it's on our path, and it is faster than running. This thing oversteers like crazy, so I give it very, very babying turns and make sure to just drive it in a straight line for as long as I can. I know that I need to drive until I find the road here, and then there's going to be a bunch of zombies up ahead. I can see them because their heads glow, because their heads are made of Kuban energy, basically. And then I know from there that there's going to be a light from one of the crates that I'm not going to open. And at that point, I know that I will need to bail out of the car because I will find another vehicle.
Sometimes it does.
There's the zombies. There's the light. You notice the car has started smoking. If I drove it for a little bit longer, it would catch on fire and explode. So now we obtain a walker gear, which is a very, very small metal gear. If you've played Metal Gear Solid 5, this game has a lot of reused assets from Metal Gear Solid 5. So the walker gear is this tiny little walker mecha. It has a machine gun that we will never use. But it is very fast, and it bowls over zombies and can travel easily over any kind of terrain. So we are going to pilot this thing until we get to Chris, essentially. We also don't know that the survivor is named Chris, but now you know. I'm sorry, a spoiler for the name of this one guy. Up there, you can see on that cliff, there's a collectible. I've already gotten it, so I will not get it again. Plus, in order to get it, I'd have to use the gun on the walker gear, which when I have the gun deployed, it moves a lot slower. One interesting thing we learned about the walker gears recently is that they have independent health values for their legs, for the front shield, and also for the vehicle itself. None of that ever comes up in this game because the zombies don't really make tactical use of damaging weak points. So anyway, we save Chris. We discover he is in fact a child. We're going to take him to the wormhole transporter here, which is going to begin another transport defense section, and this is about the easiest one in the game for reasons you'll see coming up here. So a thing I forgot in this section, I was supposed to level up after getting back from wrecked base because I have enough to get to level 10. So every enemy here has a red skull because they are very, very high level. It does not matter because this area has a giant machine gun that has more than enough ammo to kill anything that is coming towards the wormhole transporter. So this dig is we sit on this gun and shoot anything that gets close. And also some things that aren't close. And it doesn't matter that enemies are way above us in level. This is a 50 caliber machine gun. It is meant to destroy light tanks.
Oh, that's a bird.
So it just blows through these zombies, no issue. You'll notice also these watcher enemies. There are occasional small enemies in addition to the main zombies that will show up. Interesting to note, all of the enemies in this game were designed by Masahiro Ito, notable as the creature designer for Silent Hill 3. He designed all of the zombies. He designed all of these other ancillary enemies. There are watchers, there are grabbers, there are crawlers, I think is the other one. I don't know, it's a spider monster. We'll see it in a bit. I guess arachnophobia warnings for that point.
And then I guess one other thing, we do have enemies outside these sections because it's not worth.
So yeah, we just gun down enemies until we get to about 15 seconds left because we need to pick up Chris and eat all our food and get to the transporter. One thing I didn't mention also, you notice I'm standing, I always have a barrier between me and the transporter or whatever else. That is because when any of these Kuban things activate, they have a big explosion like you saw there, and if you don't have something blocking the explosion from you, it stuns you, rendering you like you stand in place for about 2 or 3 seconds, and also you drop anything you're holding, such as a survivor. So we save Chris, and he says he's very good with computers, and he can help do some stuff with Virgil. Also, he says that he can't walk. He had a wheelchair before he got here. He lost his wheelchair when he fell through the wormhole. So we're going to level up and get all of our skills to level 3.
Because I want to have enough energy left over to be able to build something I'm gonna have to do after ruins too.
And now we have this new wormhole transporter that is very, very far away from our base, which is good because the next thing we have to do is also very, very far away from our base. Similarly to Miranda, Chris was also near one of the ruins that we have to explore that has a memory board from the Charon Core. So we will head over there and obtain that. And this is the only ruins that we do more or less as intended because there's not really an easy way to skip it. It's very, very cramped and maze-like. The line to get here is pretty straightforward. We basically just follow this cliff, and eventually a marker will show up on the map show up on our HUD, in fact, telling us exactly where to go. And so we just kind of dodge zombies while we're making our way there. Now I will stop sprinting as I get to this ramp because I'm going to get a message from Reeve here, and when I get that message, it's going to lock out my ability to sprint during the time that he's talking. However, I have control, so I take advantage of that to run past the zombie that tries to grab me. So basically, Reeve says, hey, Chris needs a wheelchair. You're in an old hospital. I bet you can find parts to build a wheelchair. So that's what we grabbed right there, wheelchair parts. We need those in order to complete the mission. So now I go to an annoying platforming section. Here are the spiders I was talking about. I messed up a jump, and I will mess up this jump several times. Basically, I'm trying to jump from this shelving unit to this catwalk, and I just have a devil of a time doing it.
Captain, you're drunk.
It is a part I need to work on, and also the game is not responding to my ability to... it's not responding to me pushing the button to jump. And showing off the effectiveness of these spider enemies as I just run through them without caring. The biggest thing also they do, again, this is showing off we cannot interact with this thing while the spiders notice us. So I had to wait for all of the spiders to de-aggro before I could grab the memory board, which led to like a 40-second time loss here, which is massive. So anyway, we've got this memory board. I don't remember what it has. I think it talks about another wormhole that's nearby-ish.
So that one jump is like my biggest...
Virgil says, hey, I gotta go through this data. Why don't you just explore for a while? But since we know where we're going, we know that there's another castaway that's going to show up. Oh, right. Also, it gives us the ability to build the exploration team center, which I use that a lot in single player. In my main account, I'm not going to use it here because all of those missions, I don't have any guys to send away on those missions, and also those missions take like a day or more to activate. But now that I've built that, I'm allowed to go to the next zone, which is the next open area that has a wormhole transporter in it. And we'll also get an alert from here that there is a castaway named Nicholas who's being pursued by zombies.
If I make this part work.
Interesting that he actually contacts us via the radio, because we... no other survivor has done that so far. Despite him yelling to us over the radio when we encounter him, he will be unconscious like everybody else. So the Nicholas rescue is the longest and scariest line to run in the game. It is about the farthest that we run on foot. And there, again, very few landmarks here. I know that I need to make a right at that castle, and then there's going to be this little divot in the ground that I need to kind of run into, and then I need to keep to the left of a bunch of trees. And then my next landmark after that is some rocks.
Alright.
But yeah, so this is a very, very long line to run. And with very minimal landmarks, it has a skip in it, and then we have to do the actual Nicholas rescue, which is one of the most difficult rescues in the game. So we'll get a message from Nicholas here where he tells us to burn his porno stash. I'm not joking. You can look at the subtitles there. He straight up says that. But that lets me know that I'm going the correct direction. And then I have to go through this area, which I believe this is... We're going to come back here later. This area is called Fallen Village, and we're going to have to fight a bunch of dudes. That's where we're going to get our second Iris energy dig, which should give us enough energy to bring us to the place that leads us home. So I need to get up this piece of geometry the game does not want me to climb, and then I put a fence here, which lets me climb over a place the game does not want me to climb, and now I am in the area to rescue Nicholas.
And we will not be able to pick him back up before he's surrounded by wanderers and dies.
So, Nicholas is here unconscious.
Yes, he did.
There are like 40 or 50 zombies between me and the wormhole transporter. Similarly to the Miranda rescue, if any of these zombies hit us, we will drop Nicholas, we will get swarmed, Nicholas will die, and we will have to redo this section. So, threading the needle between these zombies is very important. Then, once we get to the transporter, we have to fight all 50 zombies.
Okay. That's the first part
Which,
now we have to...
we've done that before, but not in like this vast quantity this immediately. So we have to do a lot of shenanigans.
Blast my cash.
And by shenanigans, I do mean blowing up my own base again. Because there's just a lot of dudes. Like a lot of dudes. I probably should have just switched to my assault rifle here. I was a fool. So there you can see, like I was talking about before, when a target loses one of its 4 life bars, as the wormhole transporter did right there, it explodes and kills all the zombies around it. We don't want that to happen for multiple reasons. The biggest one being that if zombies are killed by the wormhole transporter exploding, we do not get experience for those zombies being killed. So I finally realized I need to use my assault rifle here. Blow all these dudes away. And now that we're done with the initial wave, there's just going to be a couple of stragglers around, which we can handle very easily. It's mostly about surviving the first minute of this dig. And I'm trying to pick up some of my arrows, and instead I accidentally pick up 3 hedgehogs. Because there's just a bunch of hedgehogs that are just milling around this base, around all these zombies. I don't know why the zombies haven't eaten the hedgehogs. I guess they don't like the taste of hedgehog. Interesting to note, the small animals like the gerbils and the hedgehogs are, most animals in the game you have to, like, kill with a weapon. The gerbils and hedgehogs you can just pick up off the ground, and now they're in your inventory. So conceivably, if we want to go to a dark place here, you can just pick a live gerbil off the ground and shove it into your mouth, which is... That's video games, you know? Anyway, that's all the zombies killed, so now I'm just reclaiming all the arrows that I used up. I think I don't know where most of them went, but I have enough to get through the next section. I just tear down these fences because I don't need them anymore, and they're probably going to get in the way as I'm trying to get Nick to the wormhole transporter. And I let all those hedgehogs go free because I don't want them clogging up my inventory. There's no... Well, we gotta go fast. There's no room for hedgehogs in this run. So now we pick up Nicholas. We are going to take him to a safe place out of range of the shockwave from the wormhole transporter. And we're going to wait until we got about 10 seconds left.
Water. Running this game reminds me
Gotta eat all the food again to get all the buffs again.
Mega Man X.
We do not make the most use of these buffs because the next zone we have to go to is very, very close. In fact, we ran through it on our way to get here. So we send Nicholas back, and Nicholas wakes up and says, oh yeah, I was a cop on Earth, but like, we don't really need a cop here. I'm also a good cook, so I could make food for you, I guess. So we get access to some new base management teams. We're not going to use them. This would give us access to the food management team and the medical team. Again, we do not care about these. We will not put anybody in them. So now Virgil says, hey, there's a singularity here. I've detected it. Go put the digger there and get energy out of it. So we do that.
Which will lead into base dig 2. So the thing is that, like, materials warp in all the time because the wormhole...
Like I said, we do not have to run that far.
So, like, occasionally you'll just see a wormhole open up and, like, a bunch of stuff will fall out of it.
So this leads us to Wrecked Base. This is another multiplayer map.
At least early in the game,
we will play 3 of the 5 multiplayer maps in the course of this run. So I know that there's a bomber here that's just kind of wandering around as part of the area, so I just want to pick him off while I'm waiting for the digger to start. This is another case of an enemy being very high leveled. A thing that should be an instant kill, in fact, takes 2 kills to defeat.
More than 5 levels above us. And you can see that
so that bomber's dealt with. You notice the bomber didn't explode. For some reason, if you stab a bomber in the back, they don't explode when they die. I don't know why. But that's an important thing for multiplayer. Not really important for this run. And this is another very easy dig because we're mostly on parity with where the game wants us to be level-wise.
Well, not the easiest dig in the game, but it's up there.
Okay. And our gear is still very far ahead of where it's supposed to be, so we're just obliterating all of these enemies without really having to worry too much. I don't even have to do headshots anymore. I could just do center of mass shots, and that will drop enemies consistently.
I'm not gonna lie, most of the digs in this game are pretty straightforward.
Since this is a lot of things similar to Wrecked Base,
Base dig 2 is a base dig, so
so this game, nobody really knew quite what it was going to be when Konami announced it. They just saw, oh, it's a Metal Gear zombie game, and the trailer showed up to 4 people fighting zombies and zombies grabbing chain link fences and that kind of stuff. And I think people kind of assumed it was going to be a game like 7 Days to Die or Minecraft or something like that, like a persistent world that you and your friends can play around in and manage a base and fight off zombies and that kind of stuff. The multiplayer component of this game is much simpler than that. Like I said before, there's 5 multiplayer maps in the game, which are Wrecked Base, Fallen Village, Deserted Mine, Abandoned Airport, and Forsaken Ruins. And the multiplayer is just this wave-based defense section. That's all it is. And people thought that's all this game was going to be. So it surprised everybody. I remember when I saw this game announced at the Big Bad Game-a-thon a long time ago. I was surprised to find out it had a story mode, because as far as I understood, it was just this multiplayer wave-based defense thing. And it was actually seeing this game in a different marathon, specifically the run by Plywood at that, who is again the world record holder of this, that made me interested in running this game. So you notice occasionally the screen is shaking here, and I will show you why in a little bit. There's an enemy that we haven't seen because we've been skipping all the points in the game where the game would want us to see it.
And you can see some enemies on the outskirts of the map.
And that
those are guys
is the Lord of Dust. which the dust is mostly covering it. But there it is. It is this enormous giant centipede thing. We did drive under it briefly. I didn't mention it because I'm so used to it at this point that I've been inoculated to seeing it. But it is this massive creature made out of nanomachines. It basically looks like it's like this giant quartz bug thing. It's a really cool design. Again, Masahiro Ito did not come up short on designing the enemies in this game. The thing I like about the Lord of Dust, it is one of the neatest touches to Metal Gear Survive, in my opinion, because it is a thing that is so big, it does not care about you. It will show up, it just basically wanders around the map and bulldozes everything that gets in its way because it's like the size of a container ship and weighs 70,000 million pounds or whatever. It does not care about you. It does not acknowledge your presence. It just moves around the map, demolishes stuff, and hoovers up zombies that get in its way. None of your weapons are capable of damaging the Lord of Dust. It is too big and too heavily armored. And just being near it when it's stepping is like the game treats it like you are being hit by an explosion.
We would only be doing that if we were playing the good ending. And even then...
It is an absolutely massive creature that you encounter multiple times throughout the course of the game. You can try to fight it. If you shoot it long enough, it will start fighting back kind of lazily. Because again, it doesn't really care. It's like if a very determined ant started biting you. You would like make a half-hearted effort to like flick it off of your skin, essentially. But the Lord of Dust has a couple special unique attacks it will use on you if you anger it enough. It has its own special battle theme too, which is interesting because there's no reason to fight it. You can't hurt it. And again, it does not really acknowledge or care about your existence in the slightest.
The next thing that's coming up is Base Dig 2, so I'll be replenishing my ammunition supply after this. Alright, Lord of Dust is passed.
The Lord of Dust is the central antagonist of the game, and as the game, we find out from after we discover it, we get a contact from Virgil saying that's the thing that's making all the zombies, basically. Which is interesting because prior to that, we were told it was just exposure to the dust, to the nanomachines, but now we know that if we want to stop the zombie infestation, we have to destroy the Lord of Dust because it's the core mind for all the zombies, essentially.
It's on a fixed time scale, so since we're usually in the
and we know that it wants to try and get into our dimension and eat all of that up too. And it's probably what's causing all the wormhole incursions into our dimension as well, or it's at least trying to take advantage of them. So for this section, we have a bigger, heavier machine gun that we brought from home. The machine gun we used during the Chris rescue in rarity tier is like a green. This one's a blue, which means it does more damage and has twice as much ammo for some reason. So we're just going to sit on this gun and shoot anything that gets close. And that's Metal Gear Survive, you know? Sitting in place, shooting zombies to defend a thing.
So this is my own heavy machine gun that I brought from home, and it's stronger than the one that we had during the Chris rescue.
But yeah, so this game was poorly received, let's say. There is a bunch of content that people have found by data mining the game. Like a bunch of equipment, some DLC stuff that's all like in the code, but just was never unlocked, basically. Because this game did not do well, and Konami just immediately decided to abandon it and redouble their efforts on pachinko machines or whatever. Like there was supposed to be I think there was supposed to be some Metal Gear Revengeance stuff. Like there was gonna be all these Raiden costumes and the HF katana and that kind of all that cool stuff. It's in the game files, just never was added. Nobody really knows how to add it. There's also a bunch of extra facilities for your base that have everything for them included, like costs, materials, things that they would be able to construct. That's not in there. There's all these extra machine guns that you can set up. Like you could set up a giant anti-aircraft gun. You can still see some of that content in multiplayer that will show up when you activate interceptor units or whatever. So it exists as a contextual thing that you can use sometimes in multiplayer in a very limited quantity, but at some point it was expected that you would be able to build it yourself and set it up in your own base or whatever. And also a handful of weapons, equipment, other stuff that just is in the game data, was never unlocked. So we know it's there. We don't have access to it, and we never will. There's also a bunch of multiplayer events, but again, because the game did poorly, the multiplayer events are just the same 6 things over and over again. And by doing those, you can unlock the cosmetics and stuff. Like that's how I got the cat on my head named Ricky. I'm not sure where Ricky is actually from, if anything, but so there's a bunch of extra stuff you can unlock. And there are people that have been playing this game since it came out that have everything unlocked and are sitting on just millions of materials effectively, have multiple accounts set up. I realize now I never explained what the New Game Plus run actually entails doing. I can talk about that during the next dig. Right now I have to build the expansion for my base, which you remember a long time ago I was blowing up chunks of my base. This is why, because it prevents me from having to do this to everything else. There's a couple things that just could not be deconstructed otherwise. These catwalks are invincible and also unusable. We have to demolish them so we can build some new catwalks. And also the bumper on my Xbox controller went out here, so that was cool. So anyway, now our base is bigger. We get a bunch of little spike traps and stuff. And a catwalk that we can run up and use, and we will never do either of those. So, we have enough virus energy to activate the digger again, so we're going to create a big wormhole and send everybody home. And definitely, everything will go intended, nothing will go wrong. So I mentioned before that this is not really properly New Game Plus. What we're actually doing is we have a second character slot, which you can purchase additional character slot with Survive Coin, which is the proprietary currency in the game. You get a little bit of Survive Coin for playing every week or so for playing the game, equivalent to like 20 to 40 cents worth. And an extra character slot costs $10. So, but the thing is, while we have the, oh yeah, so I guess I can talk about, all right. I equip a bunch of new stuff here. I put on a Molotov cocktails, which I'm going to need for the end of the game. I also equip this Iron Watchtower, which I'm going to need for very late in the game, not for the end. I restock all my ammo.
So,
I'm also going to equip a shotgun, which I'm going to need for the one and only boss fight in the game.
wow, I managed to perfectly thread the needle.
But yeah, so we have a second character slot, but the thing is that while we can have multiple characters, like all of the materials and weapons and stuff are shared across our account. So, that's why I'm talking about we basically spend all our time farming up resources for a given character and then cash them in on this new character. Every time we want to do one of these runs, we delete our old character that is in slot 2 and make a new one.
Okay, they just are ignoring it.
And that's why we call it New Game Plus, because it kind of is. So I mentioned Plywood, who's the world record holder for this game. I am second place, which, as it may surprise you, is not last place in the speedrun leaderboards. There are 4 people who run this game, potentially a 5th. There's been somebody on the Metal Gear Speedruns Discord that has been talking on and off about running this game. Has not done it so far. But Plywood and I are currently the only active runners of the game. So this is me realizing I never equipped my shotgun, which I really need to do because it's necessary for completing a boss fight. The one and only boss fight in the game.
I knew there was something I was forgetting.
And yeah, this section is similarly very easy because we have access to effectively unlimited ammo, so I can just kind of go ham with all of my stuff here. And also because I'm at my base, you'll notice I'm not losing Kuban crystals, so they keep whipping them constantly, because you get them anytime you go back to base. So since I'm in my base, I just have infinity of them. So I'm basically just going to be spawn camping enemies and just blowing them up with grenades or other stuff non-stop here. I don't know. If we do donations, this is a good time for donations. Keep accidentally going to my supply box, which normally change equipment is the last option in your menu, but on the supply box it's on the main repository. It's the supply box, which every day you log in, you get a bunch of stuff. There's some gerbils running around over there. Sometimes I pick them up. This time, nah. Again, I could have built some additional defenses and stuff here if I wanted to. Even in a casual playthrough, this particular event is not that difficult because you'll probably be higher level than I am right now. And while you won't have the same high level of gear that I have, you'll probably have something sufficient. I think by this point in the run, you would have access to like some kind of green tier automatic weapon. You definitely have access to grenades. And yeah, if you have access to some kind of firearm and have plenty of ammo crafted, you can just keep running back to the supply thing and doing that. You will definitely have access to, I believe, the green bow and the heavy arrows. So it won't be quite as strong as the bow I'm using, but again, infinite ammo. Not a lot of dudes come in. They come in very slowly, and you can just kind of pick them off at your own pace. Plus, also, expanding the base gives you those spike traps at the front. which the zombies... One of the things about the zombie pathfinding is if there is like an obstacle in their way, they will go out of their way to attack it first, unless something else grabs their presence. Like if you shoot a zombie that's attacking a fence or something, it will try to find a way to get to you. But by default, zombies will just attack any defensive structure that you've put in the way. Now, I don't have as much time left here, so I just kind of go rock and roll on my assault rifle to pick these guys off because I need to kill all the zombies and then restock my ammo, repair all my gear, and eat all my food before time runs out. But if we're going back home, why do you need to eat all your food, huh? That's odd. So the enemy is history. We are victorious.
The enemy is history. That's what she says.
However, it turns out that when we started up this wormhole digger to make this portal to go home, the Lord of Dust showed up. Oops. Because it's a big portal, and the Lord of Dust wants to go through the big portal. So now we're making a very, very hurried evacuation because the portal's at the top of Mother Base, which got warped through the portal earlier.
So now we're trying to get to the...
And Mother Base is not very wheelchair friendly, so we have to carry Chris to the top with us. However, the Lord of Dust is trying to get to the portal, so it is tearing Mother Base apart very slowly. So we will see the Lord of Dust as we're running around here. It's going to try to grab us right here. If we got grabbed by that hand, it would kill us instantly. So yeah, it's looming in the background there. It is so enormous. It destroys this bridge here. And then, yeah, we just keep running, getting Chris to the top of Mother Base. You notice that even as high as we are, we have still not seen the top of the Lord of Dust. It is absolutely enormous. Anyway, there's the wormhole. So Reeve goes through the wormhole. We send Chris through the wormhole. We go through the wormhole ourselves, and this is supposed to be the jump that takes us home. But you might have noticed there's still an hour left in this run.
It's got a bunch of hands.
So it turns out that the wormhole didn't take us home. We get a message from Good Luck here, who is, again, the leader of the Charon Corps, the guy that was talking to us in the beginning of the game. It said, yeah, I think there's somebody inside the Charon Corps that's trying to mess things up, that wants to bring the Lord of Dust through for some reason, so I made this contingency plan. So you're not home, you're instead in Africa. And if you get this message, it means that somebody killed me. So Africa has its own, I'm calling it Africa because it's the Africa map from
this is the
Metal Gear Solid 5.
So whatever.
But it has its own, so it's called the Forward Operating Base, or the FOB. So the FOB is a much smaller map. It is a smaller section of the game. We lose access to the base management kind of stuff. And we're basically just trying to find a way to get back to the main base so that we can do another dig and get ourselves home. So we have no access to the wormhole transporters here, but Virgil found a memory board that will give us access to that. This memory board is kind of out in the open, and it's surrounded by a new type of enemy, the Grabber, in addition to the other the basic zombies that I'm picking off with my silenced pistol because they spawn in randomly, and occasionally they're just in places where we don't want them to be. And again, we can't interact with an objective if enemies see us, so any witnesses must be killed. That section went very, very cleanly, though. So we go back, we give Virgil the memory board, and now we can start using the wormhole transporter in the FOB. However, we got information about another castaway that showed up. So we're going to go and find them. And the route that we're taking here is a route that was discovered by me accidentally. Plywood cleaned it up a lot. But basically, during one of my early runs, I got super lost and did not know where I was going. And accidentally found a faster way to get to the castaway.
I found a faster way to do something, and then Plywood, who's the world record holder, optimized it a lot, and now I'm taking what he did.
So there is a watcher. A lot of the non-humanoid zombie types will show up in this section of the game. I talked about the grabber before. That is an enemy that looks like a plant that has a little tentacle that will come out when you run near it that snags your foot and it stops you temporarily. And after that, it makes a bunch of noise alerting other zombies to your position. So yeah, so we just Skyrimmed over that mountain there, and now we go through here, and doing that allowed us to avoid a tracker, which is an enemy type that shows up here, and will be a big pain in the butt for this area. Trackers, as the name suggests, have very, very good perception, and also they can jump really far. They do these little spin kick things. They're a very, very difficult enemy to contend with, and once they see you, it's difficult to escape them.
I don't know how I was allowed to do that in the slightest. I'll take it, though, like, whatever.
However, now we've picked up Seth, who we will discover is actually a Charon Corps member. Was not a castaway, but we discovered him fighting with some other guy, who we will later learn is named Dan. So we're going to activate the wormhole transporter here to save Seth. We got attacked by some dogs because there's just wild dogs here. So I can't move Seth while these dogs are attacking me because, again, taking damage causes you to drop anybody that you were carrying. This is another very simple dig. In fact, we could just do nothing during this dig because it's not possible for the zombies to do enough damage to the wormhole transporter to destroy it before the timer runs out. As evidenced by how I'm just kind of letting them destroy the transporter. There's like 5 zombies and they have a minute and they can't do enough damage. But also, it shows how fast the transporter can get demolished, given that there were just 5 zombies hitting it for a minute, and it's already at 50% of its durability.
That was weird. The game just, like, locked.
I did that somewhat suboptimally. I would have liked to have had my food eaten and be near the transporter before it activated. So we get Seth back. Seth wakes up and says, yeah, that Dan guy, he betrayed the Charon Corps. He killed all of us, but I know that there's a secret weapon we can use to kill the Lord of Dust. And here's the coordinates for it. Go check it out.
He's in a fight with some other guy that we'll later learn his name's Dan, and he says, like, oh yeah, that Dan guy, he was trying to stop me from getting this.
And I guess if you look at the split there, this split won't be visible during the marathon. But if you have familiarity with Metal Gear Solid 5, you might know what the weapon is.
God, really? Wow, I'm surprised I didn't break my leg there. There's a random chance that... Go up the slope. What are you doing?
So we make a quick run in that direction. This is one of the easier lines to follow because we'll basically just be following a river the entire time.
It's bad because then you gotta spend a very long time fixing it. And there's not really a solution otherwise.
And also it is further eased by our discovery of a walker gear.
Lines we do because we get this walker gear, and we can just kind of blitz past all the enemies.
So we're basically just able to run down this river. There's some trackers. For some reason we can lose them here. Usually you can't lose trackers. Like, I don't know why they just de-aggro. I guess we're just moving too fast. And also the final new enemy type that we will experience in the run, the mortar. The mortar is a largely immobile enemy with a big arm cannon that is multifunctional. It can shoot bombs. It can activate. It can act like a machine gun. It can act like a shotgun. It is a devastating weapon, and we will have to contend with a handful of mortars over the course of this run. Again, some trackers here. As long as they don't hit us and knock us out of the walker gear, we're good. And I'm hoping that the aggro that I get from that one mortar goes away, or from that one tracker goes away. So that's the end of the enemies in this section. So we're going to come up on a landmass, and then the next landmass after this, the walker gear will just catch on fire and explode for literally no reason. This area is home to 2 Nubian goats. For some reason, the game decided one of them was black this time. Usually they're both white. So this is Hugo Emmerich's big weapon from Metal Gear Solid 5, known as Sahelanthropus. It is like a prototype Metal Gear, kind of. It had a lot of weaknesses, and now it's in here, and it's been pretty trashed. So we need to, but we're able to get some data. We encountered Dan, and Dan says, "Hey, why'd you pick up Seth? He's evil. Don't trust him." So we can't think about that because right now we're being beset by mortars and a bunch of basic zombies. And I get a couple chances to try and take out these mortars before they blow up the wormhole transporter. So, again, I mentioned I picked this gun because it has a chance to blow off enemy limbs. So, mortars are very, very resilient. They can just put up their hands and you can't damage them. However, if I blow their legs off, they can't do anything. They can just kind of flail around and try to punch me with their arm cannons, but they can't shoot, they can't do anything if you blow their legs off. So, now that I've been able to destroy a couple of them through use of a mortar emplacement that is in this base, and was able to shoot the legs off of the other ones, the wormhole transporter is safe for the time being. There's not enough zombies left to do any considerable damage to it. The mortar's barely going to be able to reach it before time runs out. And yeah, so as long as the mortars aren't here shooting it with bombs and shotgun shells and machine guns, we're good.
Which is their real, like, if they can use that thing, you saw what they were doing with it.
So I take this opportunity to eat some food before we return to base. So, Dan told us that Seth is not to be trusted, but I don't know. Seth showed us where Sahelanthropus was, so he seems pretty trustworthy so far. So we're able to get some data by hooking up our tablet to Sahelanthropus, and we give it to Virgil. Virgil says, yeah, the thing's basically trashed, but the railgun on it is still functional, so we can transport out the railgun and all of the targeting equipment. So that is what we're going to do right now in what is the longest singular dig in the game. This is 15 and a half minutes of wave-based defense. And we have, similarly to the base digs, there's no lines on the ground showing us where the zombies will go. We just know that they're going to mill generally in the direction of the digger. So, I mentioned before, enemy pathfinding is such that they will always go for defensive structures rather than walking around them, which is why we put down two fences in kind of a staggered formation there, because the zombies will always try to attack the fences first, but because the fences are staggered enough, we can move between them if we need to, instead of having to climb over them or do anything else. So this area is going to be the single biggest expenditure of ammunition. I'm going to use my heavy arrows for the most part, but this area is largely covered in like ankle deep water, so it's going to be very difficult for me to find my arrows. And the zombies don't really care about me. They're more focused on the digger, so I just try to dispatch them all as efficiently as possible, either shooting them in the back or stabbing them in the back as they run towards the digger. And that is most of this section. Occasionally, if I get close enough or make too much noise, the zombies will try to fight me. But yeah, there's a little bit of downtime in this section. Again, if there's donations, I guess we can put them here, because I'm out of random trivia to talk about for this game at this point. And aside from that, it's just me saying, yeah, I go and kill this zombie, and then I shoot that zombie, and then I shoot that zombie in the back.
It does more damage than shooting them in the head.
There are a couple points in here where I have to use grenades, just because it's the most efficient way to get rid of this many dudes. I do want to try to hang on to a couple more, though, because we have one more wave-based defense section after this dig. This is also a section where we're going to have to fight, I believe, 7 mortars in staggered patterns throughout the thing. We will encounter 4 times that 1 spawns in, and 1 time that 3 spawn in. So I'm going to set up this machine gun, and I have a timer telling me when the mortars will spawn in. So I'm going to go back to that machine gun near the time that any mortars spawn in to pick them off with the machine gun before they have a chance to do anything. However, before that, there is a section where a bunch of basic zombies and a bomber show up. I attempt ineffectually to kill them with a grenade arrow, so instead just fall back on a grenade and my other weaponry. So the mortar's spawning in right there. I'm going to try to pick it off before it has any chance to fight back. And I'm going to save the rest of my ammo for later in the fight. I don't think I even use all the ammo on this thing. While the zombies are busy attacking the fence, I can just rip into them with heavy arrows. Interestingly, every type of arrow can shoot through the chain link fence except for the bomb arrow, which will always explode on contact with the fence.
They will attack that fence rather than run around it.
Now, I will shoot enemies in the back, but if I can, I'll try to sneak up behind them and stab them in the back, because that requires none of my resources, unlike the shooting, which obviously requires me to retrieve my arrows afterwards, which is difficult and takes time. But it's not like I don't have time right now. This is effectively an auto-scroller. One thing that is that I always note around this time is that in multiplayer, during these defense sections, you can actually speed up how fast the digger is going. And I understand why that's not in the single-player game, but as a speedrunner, it would have been an interesting addition, because speeding the digger up requires an investment of Kuban energy, and additionally, if the digger is hit once while it is sped up, it slows down. Like, back down to its starting speed. So, if there was a way to speed the digger up like you can in multiplayer, it would have led for some interesting speed tech, but as it stands, it's an auto-scroller. It is what it is. I understand why they didn't put it in, because if you're casually playing this game just trying to complete the story, like, obviously there's no real reason to speed the digger up, because that's how the game is set up, is that you fight these enemies at a given time. However, in multiplayer, it's not even possible to reach the max rank in a multiplayer mission without speeding the digger up at least once. In fact, once per wave, basically. In every wave, it becomes more and more expensive to speed the digger up, and also every wave requires more energy to pass. There's a bunch of skills that also we never unlock because it wouldn't be relevant to us because we're using ranged weapons all the time. There are many different melee combat moves that you have access to, like your basic CQC kind of stuff. We never unlocked that here, but if we unlocked it, we could potentially like parry incoming zombies, essentially. We would be able to do some punches and kicks to a zombie that is attempting to grab us and shove it away and knock it over. Because these zombies are made out of like some kind of nano polymer alloy thing, we can't really damage them with our bare hands, but we can kill them with a knife because they needed to be able to reuse assets from Metal Gear Solid 5. But yeah, so we don't have the normal punch kick that that Solid Snake has, or any of the other kind of melee combos. We just do a single punch, and it does nothing to any enemy except for like, except I think you can. I believe if you kick a sheep or any other kind of prey animal, you can Fulton extract them out. You can attach them to a balloon or to the wormhole digger and send them back to your base to harvest them, or in material form. So there, I missed a shot, and I apparently shot a collectible. I don't know how I did that, but cool, I guess. I don't know. Go me.
How?
I want to save some grenades for the final section, but also there's just a lot of guys that I need to kill. So coming up in about a minute is the part where we have to fight a bunch of mortars. This would be difficult if we didn't have the gear that we have, by which I mean if we didn't have that 50 caliber machine gun with over 200 rounds of ammunition. That said, if the mortars get a chance to get up and are able to guard their face, they can severely reduce the damage that weapon can do. There's only one part of the game where you're able to see the full strength of mortars because we don't have a way to prevent them from being able to fight us. You do not want a mortar to be able to fight back. Mortars are incredibly tough enemies. They can pump out a lot of damage, and also they can use their machine gun form to just hit you with suppressing fire, which stuns you in place like being close to an explosion or being hit by the shockwave from the Kuban energy digger thing.
I didn't know that could blow those guys' slates off.
So I realize now that these are also mortars and that I
Right,
didn't pay attention to where I was in the thing. Fortunately, I was able to kill them before that one was able to start hitting me with machine gun fire. Because if it was started machine gunning me, I would be unable to use the gun, because every time it hits me with that, I would be suppressed, and yeah, that would stop me from being able to use the mounted weapon like that.
3 minutes and change.
So, from this point we have a break because the game expected us to take a very long time fighting those mortars, which is understandable for, you know, a not speedrun, essentially.
After Base Dig 2 is the last time in the run that we restocked any ammunition. Or supplies in general.
So the next wave will have one more mortar in it, and then after that, it is just a lot of wanderers and bombers.
I don't know how I got that collectible.
So I'm taking this time to try and get all the arrows I can. Again, this is ankle deep water, and I'm looking for some tiny, very thin strips of metal against a reflective surface, so it's not going well. And the camera kind of gets in my way there, but I'm able to pick off the last mortar.
That is our last mortar spawn.
For reasons I don't fully understand, I don't use the rest of the ammo in that gun. I probably should have, because I don't know what else I would have done with that weapon.
Forward, and I'll follow them and backstab them or whatever.
I can't pick it up and reuse it. But I'm like, oh, I can probably just go and backstab all these guys. And no, not really. There's just like too many guys. Everything just happens so much, you know? Also, further complicating this, I didn't even talk about that, but further complicating this, most enemies in this section are 5 or more levels above us, so they take reduced damage from everything we do. So we're back to needing to get headshots and other critical attacks to actually deal with these enemies. This will be the last point in the run where we have to worry about that. So you can just see what I was saying, a lot of guys. The map there is just filled with red dots, basically. However, enemies are just kind of slowly filing towards the digger. So we have plenty of time to dispatch them before any kind of problem comes up. We actually have the first enemy that has managed to damage the digger, because there's enemies that are walking on that cliff face above us that just fall flat on their faces. Which damages them. You could see that happen, and also gives us a bit of time to dispatch them while they, you know, crawl slowly towards the digger and flail at it ineffectually.
Alright, we're going into the final zone with a lot more ammo than we normally have, which is pretty good. You know what's better than no ammo? Like, more than no ammo.
So I take this opportunity to refill myself on my food because I'm going to have to do a lot of running after this section.
Return to base here because we're waiting for...
I can't do a return to base here because the game needs to play a cutscene. If I attempted to return to base here, I would instead send me back to the title screen, and I have to redo this 15-minute section.
If we try to return to base before then, we will go back to the title screen.
So, then it's also waiting for a codec call. Where it turns out, oh no, Seth betrayed us. So now that we're done with that, we can go back. It turns out Seth kidnapped Chris because he needed Chris to reprogram Virgil or something. And Seth has been taken over by the nanomachines. He's actually working for the Lord of Dust and is trying to send the Lord of Dust back to our dimension.
So it turns out Seth was actually evil. He's working for the Lord of Dust. He killed Lacaron.
So we hit level 20, which is the maximum level we are going to hit for this run. Unlock the final levels of endurance and dexterity.
He needed Chris to figure out how to do something with the computer.
And head back. Also, because Seth traveled back to the main base, we now are able to travel back to the main base.
Fight Seth, who, when we show up,
so in a cutscene I'm going to skip, we're going to see Seth holding Chris hostage. We come out of the wormhole transporter. Seth looks at us and is like, oh, you've got nanomachines too, and holds his hand in front of our face menacingly and tries to kill us with his nanomachine powers, or otherwise convert us to working for the Lord of Dust. Reeve shoots him in the face like 4 times and he turns into this thing, which in multiplayer this enemy is referred to as a Devastator. It is one of the most difficult enemies to deal with. And I mean, Seth is pretty strong for a zombie. He's stronger than a mortar, as we'll see. But also, we can dispatch him with less than half of our shotgun ammo. And that is the one and only boss fight in the game.
And I messed up. I was trying to get
anyway, when we killed Seth, it knocked us out because Seth was trying to control us with his cyber as well. So... from killing Seth and also from Chris unlocking some stuff in Virgil, Virgil's like, oh hey, there's a memory board I've learned about, so you need to go get it. And this leads to our last bit of proper speed tech in the run.
Makes it very vulnerable to a shortcut.
So, we go back to where we salvaged Sahelanthropus from, and this is going to lead to some interesting kind of navigation. This is the route that took me the longest to learn because this jungle is impenetrable. You notice that you might have noticed I selected the Iron Watchtower there because this is, we're going to use 2 of them in the course of this line. These things are enormously helpful for bypassing obstacles. And you will see why very soon. So, there is an intended way for us to climb up this cliff, but it's very slow because we have to run over to a crack in the wall, and there's like a special, very slow animation. But we could just put down this watchtower that is exactly the height of this cliff and climb up a ladder. It doesn't save that much time overall, but it saves enough. So now we go through the jungle, and I know that I need to be to the left of this plant, then I need to run between 2 trees. And then I have to go to the left of this cliff face here. And then I have to go up a rock formation, and then go to the left of a cliff face again. And then, just as I run out of stamina, there will be kind of a little dip in between things, a road path. I need to go to the left of this big boulder in the road, and then go up this dirt path right here and over some rocks. I want to be on rocks because I know that grabbers cannot be in the rocks because they just can't burrow into them. Once I'm across this bridge, then it's basically just following the bridges. I do end up messing up this path a little bit in this particular run because I didn't keep track of exactly where I am. So a minor time loss here, but I'm still okay overall. Because I need to go up to that final waterfall there. I forgot where I was going. I'm like, oh, oops. So I went down the waterfall thinking I went too far, but that's not possible. So this is what I'm talking about with the, you don't want to be near guys that are laying down because they'll do that. And for some reason, if you get grabbed by a zombie on the foot, Captain will try to punch it for about 15 years before realizing that you probably need to kick it. So for some reason, this area has a balcony with a iron watchtower shaped hole cut in it. So this is usually the longest dungeon in the game, but we skip more or less all of it by putting down that iron watchtower and get to the final room, which is right here. We kill the 4 zombies in here with our assault rifle so that, again, we are not being spotted, because if we are spotted, we cannot grab the objective. So this is the last memory board that we're going to grab in the run. And it gives us the location of the final set of wormhole transporters in the game. This is a wormhole transporter that we could not access otherwise. There are a bunch of barriers that prevent us from getting to it.
And this takes us to the final dig of...
And this will take us to Deserted Mine.
Deserted Mine, which is a multiplayer map also.
Now, this area is full of wild animals that will try to attack you immediately, and in this run, I am not successful at dodging them. In fact, that wild animal hurts me badly enough that I start bleeding. So I will have to fix that using the wound management system when I get to the area. If you're bleeding, you don't recover health naturally. Of all the debuffs I could get, it's probably one of the least defensive ones. Because I could get a bruise or a contusion, I think, which either permanently reduces health or stamina. Well, by permanently, I mean for about 10 minutes. But yeah, we're coming up on the final dig site of the game. Oh, right. Also, that thing gives us the blueprint for what is called the Archaea Blade Trap, which is a weapon designed by Dan, who is now part of our team now that we've killed Seth. And basically, we have this railgun, but the robot that would normally aim it has been obliterated, more or less. Like, it is non-functional. It got blown up a long time ago. We're going to clear out a couple stragglers. At this point, we don't care about zombies that are currently here because we don't care about getting experience anymore. So we're just going to kind of mag dump into all of the offensive ones. So I talked about how Seth was much stronger than a normal mortar, and I will prove it here. There was a mortar there. It's gone now. But yeah, so the Archaea Blade Trap is a big uses the Kuban energy to create a big spike of nanomachines that will hold the Lord of Dust in place long enough for us to be able to charge up the railgun and shoot it.
Now, Deserted Mine is a lot easier than say Alondribus was,
which is highly necessary because, again, the robot that would normally be aiming this railgun does not work. It is... We can't even use the computers in it. Like, if you're able to go and see it, there is an entire set of computers hooked into the cockpit. So we're basically just using any of the functioning hardware to be able to aim this thing.
Where enemies follow these arrows on the ground, and you can predict and stop.
Now, Deserted Mine is another. Deserted Mine in multiplayer is actually a very difficult map. Because it is one of a handful of maps. I believe it's Deserted Mine and Abandoned Airport are maps where mortars just natively spawn in, and they spawn in very inconvenient locations that you have to go very far out of your way to actually kill the mortar that is harassing you. In this one especially, because this area you're at the biggest disadvantage. Everything has the height advantage on you. The digger is in the lowest possible point of the map.
The enemies also
so
the red barrels.
I'm just gonna take advantage of this red barrel here. I used a red barrel earlier. I shot one that was near the other mortar, so I didn't have to use all of my ammunition to kill it. And yeah, red barrels, video games. That's how it works. Now, while no mortars spawn in this version of the game, we do get a couple of trackers near the end, but they're a lot dumber than trackers that we would normally encounter in multiplayer. I'm also trying to stay away from the red barrel myself because this is a red barrel in a video game. Taking any kind of damage causes it to explode like an atomic bomb. And if I'm near one and an enemy so much as like breathes on it, it will explode and kill me instantly. I do have revive pills, so I do have a contingency for that, but I would rather not use them. Revive pills are kind of annoying to craft. Even with the character that I have on my main account, I have a very simple way to harvest half of the ingredients to build it. Also, I'm realizing that there's a fence there already, and why am I building another fence in front of that fence?
Do what you feel.
But half of the ingredients are a white stork hark, or what? Oriental stork, I believe, is the name of the animal, and a black stork. And for some reason, you can build cages to hold every type of animal in this game except for birds. So any bird-based ingredient is very difficult to obtain, especially a rare bird-based ingredient like the stork hearts. So occasionally in between runs, I will go on hunting sprees where I have my character equipped with a shotgun, and I'll just go out to the places where stork spawns and just have an old-fashioned stork hunt like Grandpa used to have. So at this point, I'm just kind of back to spawn camping enemies. I try not to move up too far here, because there are some just enemies that are natively milling around here that make no effort to attack the digger, but if they see you, they will absolutely try to fight you. They don't show up on the map either, because they are not enemies spawned as part of this particular event.
And at this point, I don't really care that much about killing dudes anymore.
And since this is the final combat section in the game, I am going to be using my ammo somewhat liberally. Like, obviously, I don't want to be using ammo needlessly, but I'm less hesitant about using my pistol. I'm less hesitant about using my pistols and rifles, basically. And my specialty grenade arrows. Falling back on my 45 because I have more ammo for it than I do for the Glock. There's a lot of talk in the gun community about the stopping power of the 45 ACP versus the 9mm pistol. I don't know. 9mm was chosen as the ammunition of choice for NATO trials because the NATO trials were based around our potential conflict with the Soviets, which ultimately never really happened. But people take it as, oh, 9mm was accepted by NATO, that means it's a superior cartridge. But really, like, it was the best cartridge for that particular scenario. Like, To quote Receiver 2, if you care about stopping power, get a shotgun. So, we were holding on to these Molotov cocktails here for this particular instance, because I could just kind of hang back at this point and just let enemies come to me, because there's about a minute left in this particular part of the run. And I got a lot of area denial tools, and I will use all of them, because I don't have any reason not to. I will also absolutely mess up throwing that weapon. Just needlessly using up one of my gas bombs. And yeah, these do a lot of damage to enemies, but that barbed wire fence was not particularly strong, so now I gotta fall back on my main weapons to knock these guys out. That weapon did not last as long as I hoped. I also accidentally set myself on fire because a dude ran right in front of my face as I was trying to throw my last Molotov out. However, I'm not too concerned about this. There's not enough zombies here to really do any significant damage to the digger, and there are 10 seconds left in this particular wave before the final wave. And so, that's we're here. I don't have a whole lot more to say about this run in particular. I'm glad that you've watched to this point, and yeah, I hope that you find it. You find this run interesting enough to include in your marathon. So I take advantage of the rest of the iron watchtowers I have here, because an iron watchtower is, in addition to being a structure that I can, stand on to bypass things, it is also a structure I can shoot through, and one that is highly resilient to damage. And impossible for zombies to bypass. Zombies can climb over the chain link fences. They cannot climb over these iron watchtowers.
I don't remember if she posted the emotes, but she made a bunch of emotes.
So I just put them in any place that I can fit them and that I can shoot back reasonably. And I set up my last heavy machine gun here, and that's going to be most of the big way I deal with most of the zombies. Because they're all going to be held up at one of 3 different obstacles that I can shoot through. Aside from the ones coming down this very, very, very long, windy path. But they're also not a super big issue. I try to see if I can just head them off with a grenade early on. I cannot. I whiffed that one, unfortunately. One thing notable also, if you're a casual player of Metal Gear Survive, I think there's like a couple hundred of them maybe. If you want to build 5.56 ammunition, which is what we use for this run, the most economical way to do it is to build an assault rifle and then deconstruct it, because every assault rifle comes with 30 rounds of 5.56. It takes less resources to make 30 rounds of 5.56 ammunition that way than it does to make it the intended way. So occasionally in between runs, I'll just make 30 assault rifles and then melt them down and get the parts back. Well, get most of the parts back. So I keep looking. There is a bomber that is taking its sweet time getting down this ramp. So I'm just checking the map to see what else is coming in the meantime. And I'm like, yeah, I could probably take out that bomber. I have some shotgun shells left. And without his legs, he's powerless. So, in the south of the map, one of the 2 trackers that we will see has spawned in. and it is coming at us very, very slowly.
Except they're being a lot dumber than trackers usually are.
However, it is out of the range that we can really shoot at it right now. There it is, and there it goes. And yeah, thanks to the Metal Gear speedrunning community, thanks to Plywood for teaching me how to run this. And yeah, shout out to a couple other notable speedrunners. I think without Author Blues, I definitely would not have gotten into speedrunning. And his streams are great. He doesn't do as much speedrunning anymore, but he is still a cool guy. Rock and roll. So now, we've gathered enough iris energy to create a wormhole that will attract the Lord of Dust, so that we can pull it into the Archaea Blade Trap. We've also decided that we're going to use that wormhole to send Chris home. We're going to give him all of the data that we've collected, and he's going to go back to the time that he fell out of, and grow up to become Good Luck. And using his research on the Lord of Dust and other stuff, he will develop all of the nanotechnology that is in the Metal Gear series. And that's how this game ties into the lore. So, there's the Archaea Blade Trap. It is constructed. It's very, very big, and if we were doing the good ending, there would be one more 30-minute long dig where we have to defend the Blade Trap from like hundreds of zombies, effectively. But we're going for the bad ending, which is faster. So, in a cutscene here, we're sending Chris home. But the wormhole's still open. So, you know what? These guys seem like they're fine. They've got everything under control. I think we're just going to go home too. We look over. We see they've captured the Lord of Dust.
They'll be fine.
Yeah, they're probably fine. And yeah, so we're going to wake up in the Afghan desert in totally different clothes, and that's going to go to credits. So, thanks for watching. I hope you consider putting this in your marathon.
Go through the wormhole and get back home.
I've been Space Cow 2455. This has been Metal Gear Survive. Thank you. Oh, I thought Amanda was going to stream tomorrow. Alright. I'll send you guys over to her once we hit the credits here.